You know, retirement is supposed to be this golden time, a chance to relax, travel, enjoy each other's company without the rush of work or raising kids. But let's be honest, sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Maybe you've noticed things between you and your partner have settled into a comfortable routine, maybe too comfortable. And when it comes to talking about desire, intimacy, or even just wanting more closeness, well, it can feel awkward, even scary, to bring it up. Sound familiar? You're not alone. So many couples go through this. After decades together, it's easy to assume your partner knows what you want, or that the spark just naturally fades with age. But here's the truth. Desire doesn't have an expiration date, and having those conversations, they can actually bring you closer than ever. So today, let's talk about how to open up that dialogue, gently, lovingly, without pressure. Because this isn't about recapturing the past. It's about discovering new ways to connect in this chapter of your life. Now, the first step is often the hardest, starting the conversation. Maybe you've been putting it off because you don't want to hurt your partner's feelings, or you're not even sure how to put it into words. That's completely normal. But here's the thing. You don't have to have a perfect script. You just have to begin. One way to ease into it is by focusing on connection rather than just physical intimacy. Try something like, "I've been thinking lately about how much I love our time together, and I'd love to find new ways to feel even closer." That frames it as something positive, something you both can explore rather than a complaint or a demand. Another approach? Use memories as a bridge. For example, remember when we used to take those long walks and just talk? I miss that. It's a gentle way to remind each other of the emotional intimacy you've shared and that it's still worth nurturing. Now, if the idea of sitting down for a big talk feels overwhelming, don't force it. Sometimes, the best conversations happen naturally, while you're cooking dinner, sitting on the porch, or even during a quiet moment before bed. The key is to keep it light, open, and free of pressure. And here's something important to remember. Your partner might be feeling the same way, but just as unsure about how to bring it up. By taking that first step, you're giving both of you permission to be honest about what you want, and that's a gift. Of course, it's not just about starting the conversation. It's about listening, too. When your partner shares their feelings, resist the urge to jump in with solutions or defenses. Just listen, nod, hold their hand. Let them know their thoughts matter to you. Because when both people feel heard, the walls start to come down. Now, let's talk about another hurdle, the myths we carry about aging and desire. Society loves to tell us that passion is only for the young, that after a certain age, it's normal to just let it fade. But that's simply not true. Desire changes, yes, but it doesn't disappear unless we let it. And sometimes, the biggest barrier isn't physical, it's the stories we tell ourselves. So, if you've been thinking, "We're too old for this," or "It's been so long, why bother?" Pause. Ask yourself, who says? Why not explore what pleasure and closeness look like now? This isn't about comparing yourselves to your younger years. It's about writing a new story together. And that's where we'll pick up next. How to let go of those old expectations and embrace the possibilities waiting for you both. Because this isn't just about rekindling desire. It's about rediscovering each other in ways you might not have imagined. So take a deep breath. Maybe even share a smile with your partner today. No words needed yet. Just a little reminder that you're in this together. And when you're ready, we'll keep walking this path, step by step. You know, one of the most beautiful things about long-lasting love is how it evolves over time. Think about it. When you first met your partner, maybe it was all fireworks and butterflies. Then came the busy years of building a life, raising a family, chasing careers. And now you have something even more precious, depth. A love that's been tested, a bond that's grown roots. But here's the catch. Just because your love has matured doesn't mean the excitement has to fade. In fact, this could be the perfect time to explore a whole new kind of closeness. So, let's talk about how to do that. How to let go of old expectations and welcome the possibilities of now. First, let's tackle a big one. The idea that desire should look a certain way. Maybe you're comparing yourselves to how you were 30 years ago, or worse, comparing yourselves to some Hollywood version of romance. But here's the truth. Intimacy isn't a performance. It's not about recapturing the past. It's about embracing what feels good today. So how do you do that? Start by letting go of the word should. There's no rulebook here. Maybe passion looks different now, slower, softer, more about connection than intensity. And that's more than okay. It's beautiful. Try this. Sit down with your partner, maybe over a cup of tea or during a quiet evening, and ask, what makes you feel loved these days? Not what used to, but what is now? You might be surprised by the answers. Maybe it's a lingering touch, a shared laugh, or just sitting together in comfortable silence. Those moments, they're the building blocks of desire at this stage of life. Now, another hurdle many couples face is the fear of rejection. After so many years together, it's easy to think, if they wanted to be closer, they'd say so. But here's the thing, your partner might be thinking the exact same thing. Someone has to break the silence. And it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. A simple, I miss being close to you, or I'd love to spend more time just holding each other can open the door. And if the response isn't what you hoped, that's okay. It's not a no, it's just a not right now. Keep the conversation gentle, and remember, this isn't about fixing something broken. It's about nurturing something that's already there. And let's talk about touch, not just the kind that leads to intimacy, but the everyday touches that keep you connected. A hand on the shoulder, a squeeze of the fingers, a warm hug before bed. Those small gestures remind your bodies and your hearts that you're still together. If physical touch has become rare over the years, start small. Reach for their hand while you're watching TV. Brush their hair back when you pass by. These tiny moments rebuild the habit of closeness, and that's where desire often finds its way back in. Now, here's something else to consider. Desire isn't just about the body. It's about the mind, too. Sometimes, the best way to reconnect is through conversation. Not just, how was your day, but what's something you've been dreaming about lately? Or what's one thing you'd love to try together? Dreaming together, whether it's about travel, hobbies, or even just a lazy Sunday morning, can reignite that sense of partnership. And when you feel like a team in life, it's easier to feel like a team in love, too. Of course, there might be practical challenges, health, energy levels, medications that affect desire. But those aren't roadblocks, they're just part of the conversation. If something's changed physically, talk about it openly, without shame. I've noticed this feels different lately. What about you? Is a way to approach it as partners, not problems. And remember, intimacy isn't all or nothing. If certain things don't feel the way they used to, that doesn't mean the closeness has to end. It just means you get to be creative, to discover new ways to share pleasure and connection. So, where do you go from here? Start small. Choose one thing from our talk today, a question to ask, a touch to offer, a memory to share, and let it be your first step. There's no rush. This isn't about checking boxes. It's about rediscovering each other, one conversation at a time. And in our next part, we'll talk about how to keep that momentum going, how to make desire a natural, joyful part of your life together again. Because this is just the beginning. Isn't it funny how the simplest things in life often become the most profound? A shared glance across the breakfast table. The way your partner still knows exactly how you take your tea. Those little moments, they're the quiet heartbeat of a long love. And if we've learned anything so far, it's that desire isn't some separate thing you have to chase. It's woven right into those everyday moments, if you let it be. So now, let's talk about how to keep this newfound closeness alive, not as a chore, but as a natural, joyful part of your days together. Because that's the secret. Intimacy thrives when it's not a destination, but part of the journey. First, let's get practical. You know what kills desire faster than anything? Pressure. That feeling of, we should be doing more, or we're not where we used to be. So let's take that off the table right now. This isn't about keeping score. It's about creating space, emotional and physical, where connection can grow. Try this. Once a week, set aside what I call no expectation time. Maybe it's 20 minutes on the porch swing after dinner, or lying in bed a little longer on Sunday morning. The rule? No agenda, no shoulds. Just being together. You might talk. You might not. You might hold hands. You might doze off. The magic is in the lack of pressure. Often, it's in these unplanned moments that the spark flickers back to life on its own. Now, here's something else to consider: novelty. No, I don't mean jumping out of airplanes, unless that's your thing. I mean the small adventures that remind you you're still discovering each other. After decades together, it's easy to think you know everything about your partner. But people keep growing, especially in this chapter of life. Ask questions you haven't asked in years. What's something you've never told me? If we could have one silly do-over from our past, what would it be? Play like you're newly dating again. Leave a love note in their jacket pocket. Text them something flirty in the middle of the day. Yes, even if you're both at home. It's not about being someone you're not. It's about remembering you can still surprise each other. And speaking of surprises, let's talk about laughter. There's nothing more attractive than shared joy. Watch an old comedy together. Recall your most embarrassing moments. When was the last time you laughed until your sides hurt? That kind of lightness. It's foreplay for the soul. Of course, some days will feel more ordinary than others. That's life. On those days, try this simple practice, the 10-second hug. Not the quick pat on the back kind. A full, lingering embrace. Count it out in your head. Something happens around the 7-second mark, your bodies relax, your breath syncs up. It's like a reset button for closeness. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this all sounds nice, but what if my partner isn't interested? Here's my gentle answer. You can't control their response, only your approach. Keep showing up. Keep choosing kindness. Keep extending those small invitations to connect. Sometimes the seeds we plant take time to grow. And if you're the one feeling hesitant, that's okay too. Ask yourself, what's one small step I could take toward closeness this week? Maybe it's saying yes to holding hands when you'd normally pull away, or speaking up about something that makes you feel loved. Tiny steps still move you forward. Here's the beautiful truth. Desire after retirement isn't about turning back the clock. It's about writing a new story, one where intimacy is deeper because it's chosen, not just routine, where touch is more precious because you understand how fleeting time really is, where you get to fall in love again with the person who's walked beside you through it all. So as we wrap up, I want you to do something for me. Tonight, before bed, take one moment to really look at your partner, not as the person who forgot to take out the trash or snores too loud, but as that brave soul who's built a life with you. That's where desire begins, in gratitude, in presence, in the quiet miracle of still being here, together. And if you found even one helpful idea in our time together, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What's your takeaway? What's your next small step? Because this conversation matters. Your love story matters. Here's to the next chapter. May it be your most connected yet.